Okay, so there's not much on the screen because I'm not going to have NAA put up the entire text of the pending bills right now, but there are three different things I just wanted to quick mention that may affect the lease agreement in the next few years. The first is a rain tax. New Jersey is putting a pretty big spotlight on stormwater runoff issues that they're having. And the bill has actually been pending for a little bit. They keep introducing variations of this bill, through legislation, but the bill's kind of getting a little bit of traction now, which is why I mention it, because they've been garnering some support of some other agencies, including the Department of Environmental Protection, the EPA. So what it's basically stating is that the landlords it's not even just landlords, that the different municipalities throughout New Jersey, the bill that's pending now is stating that those municipalities could tax property owners, including commercial property owners, mainly from personal property owners, that have large areas of impervious surface covers. People with parking lots. So it's going to, they're going to attack malls, shopping centers, developers, and obviously landlords. And one of the things that opponents are fighting about is they're basically calling it the quote-unquote rain tax, which some people are very against. But it's seeming to get a little bit of traction, and it's something that might ultimately, what our argument is that we'll just pass it along to the tenants, so you're only hurting the tenants. But it is something that, is starting to get a little bit of traction and to keep an eye on. It's something that may in the future be included in the lease agreements, because those rain taxes, like I said, are going to have to be collected from somewhere. The second piece of legislation I wanted to mention has to do with mold remediation. Now, there's already laws, and that's a whole other seminar for another day, but with regard to mold remediation out there. But there are some new changes to the existing laws that were introduced in this past legislative session, and it's basically requiring some remediation from a certified mold inspector, certified mold remediator in certain situations, and it will affect landlords as well. A lot of the changes have to do with homeowners associations, but it is stating that landlords themselves as well could have to do some further remediation. And one of the other things that the pending legislation is stating is that if there are any type of proceedings against a landlord because a tenant may have been constructively evicted, that those judgments now will be provided to the Commissioner of Community Affairs. So we do have mold addendums and things like that are right now are okay, but if this legislation passes and there are some more restrictions, those addendums you may see changing. And then the last piece of legislation that's pending that was just introduced in this past 2018-2019 session, that is, to me, the most onerous of the three, has to do with lead inspections. There is pending legislation right now that is specifically targeting landlords that would require lead inspections prior to inception of the lease. So it would require a certified lead inspector, and they would have to get certified by the Department of Community Affairs to inspect the dwelling for lead hazards before the tenant even moves in. And that they're calling them lead evaluation contractor, has to test the drinking water for the presence of lead, as well as obviously things around the apartment. Then on top of that, if any lead is found in the water, obviously leading from the pipes or in the apartment, the landlord is going to have to remediate that lead. So this is obviously very scary, very onerous on the part of the landlord, and this is something where you're going to have some types of certifications, I think, to show that you're either lead-free or lead-safe. There are exceptions if the dwelling was built after 1978, I believe, so that could help, but obviously that's not going to target the majority of the apartment complexes throughout New Jersey. So it's something that you may see in these lease agreements, so that you can certify whether the place has been inspected by the certified inspector and if it's considered lead-free, lead-safe, and along those lines. So this is getting some traction. Like I said, it was just introduced in this past session. It was actually introduced in March. So just keep your eyes open, and you may start to see those in the lease agreements as well.